It was early spring when the chaos began. I had just returned from checking the ranch boundaries when I noticed that the fence surrounding my forested property had been torn down. The handiwork was unmistakable. Karen and her accomplices had struck again, acting without permission or regard for the law. My first instinct was to assess the damage. Sections of the fence were uprooted, splintered, and strewn across the forest floor. But I also noticed another, far more pressing problem. The forest itself was now open to wandering wildlife, which included animals I had been tracking and protecting for research purposes. I activated the ranch security system, which alerted me to movement along the perimeter. Sure enough, several wild boars had wandered into the open land, attracted by crops and the disturbed terrain. Their massive bodies began rooting through the underbrush, heading straight for Karen's neighborhood beyond my property line. I called Sarah, who had been inside with the children, explaining the situation. "Max and I are going out," I said. "We need to ensure the boars don't reach the houses." Armed with knowledge of both the terrain and the animals' behavior, I guided Max through the forest. Using natural barriers, noise deterrents, and controlled herding techniques, we redirected the boars safely away from the houses while preventing harm to the animals themselves. Meanwhile, Karen arrived furious. She had expected a confrontation over property damage, but what she saw was far more intimidating. The animals she thought she could ignore were now acting as an unstoppable force, controlled by someone who understood both law and nature. "You can't control this," she shouted. I smiled thinly. "Actually, I can. You tore down my fence. These animals are my responsibility, and now they're reminding you why boundaries exist." By the time the neighbors arrived, the forest was in controlled chaos. The boars had been redirected safely, the damaged fence marked clearly as evidence, and Karen's audacity on full display. The irony was undeniable. In trying to intimidate me, she had created a situation where her own neighborhood was at risk. Local authorities arrived shortly thereafter. I explained the sequence of events, providing photographic evidence of the fence destruction, witness accounts, and security footage. Karen, who had tried to frame the situation as harmless, was now facing liability for property destruction and the indirect risk she had created. By evening, the forest was secure once again. New fencing was installed, reinforced and clearly marked, ensuring no future attempts at trespass or destruction could succeed. Sarah and I walked the perimeter, Max alert and vigilant, ensuring that our property and our family remained protected. The lesson was clear. Karen's repeated attempts to assert control through destruction and intimidation had backfired spectacularly. Nature, law, and preparation had all combined to show her that audacity without foresight has consequences far beyond what she anticipated. As the sun set, painting long shadows across the forest and ranch, the property was restored. The boars were safe, the houses beyond the forest untouched, and the message unmistakable. Trespass, destruction, and overreach are met with accountability, strategy, and authority. Karen, humiliated and powerless, had learned once again that her entitlement could not overcome preparation, knowledge, and vigilance. The ranch, the forest, and the family's peace remained intact, a testament to careful planning, respect for boundaries, and the inevitable consequences of audacity.